Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. I'm your host, Bob Gallagher, joined in studio by Stacy Alcorn, and very special guest joining us by phone today, Bryan Mattimore, co-founder of the Growth Engine Innovation Agency, author of 3 books, with the most recent one being 21 Days to a Big Idea. Welcome to the show, Bryan.
Well, thank you, Bob, and nice to meet you, and Stacy as well.
Yeah, very excited to have you on. We're going to talk about creating ideas, innovation. First of all, what is an innovation consulting firm? What do you do?
Well, we, broadly speaking, we help companies come up with new ideas that hopefully at the end of the day are profitable. So this could be new products, it could be new services, it could be new marketing strategies, all the above. And so we are experts at both ideation process, that is coming up with ideas from groups, as well as qualitative research methodologies. So, classic focus group testing, but also, shop-alongs, one-on-one, home use tests, all that kind of stuff.
Do you have any words of advice for a company that wants to encourage people to share great ideas? Because I think a lot of times people have them and nobody shares them. How do you create a culture where people feel like they can share their wild, crazy, and cool ideas?
Oh, it's a great question. I actually, one of our clients who had a manufacturing firm asked us, and they said, how do we get more ideas out of our employees? But by the way, we don't want to do a brainstorming or ideation session because we don't want to take them off the line because that's going to cost us money. And of course, the simple answer is to say we'll do a suggestion box, which, as you may know, or the listeners may know, has been, for the most part, a tremendous failure in corporate America. There have been some exceptions, Frito-Lay, Dart Industries, et cetera, but generally the suggestion boxes don't work. That people put their ideas in this black hole, they never hear anything, and they get cynical of the process. So suggestion 1 is don't do a suggestion box. On the positive side, the idea we came up with was a technique called whiteboarding, where you put a whiteboard out, you put a challenge in the middle of the whiteboard, you write it down, and get people to write ideas down, almost in a graffiti-like way. You generally do it for 7 to 10 days, and it could be anything. It could be, how do we cut costs? How do we be more efficient? What new product ideas do you have? We're trying to name something, whatever it is. And you do that for 7 to 10 days and get people to write down their ideas. And it's shown to be a very sort of powerful, simple, and effective technique. It's kind of water cooler conversation, doesn't cost you anything really. And we found that some companies, especially some of the smaller ones, have really embraced this and got some great ideas out of their people from it.
That's
I like that.
awesome.
It's different.
Yeah.
Because whenever you ask at a meeting, people to share ideas, it's just, you can hear the crickets, nothing else.
Well, the 2 problems with asking for ideas is, one is like, who's got some ideas?
Yeah.
And the problem with that is you're not being specific. Generally, if you're trying to get your ideas to get more employees, ask them something specific, like, how do we do a better job of marketing to Hispanics in Boston, this particular service? You're more likely to get an actual idea than if you say, who's got some ideas? That's the first thing. And the second thing is you want to trigger people. I mean, that's what this book is about, this 21 Days to a Big Idea. It's all about triggering people's brains to get new ideas, because it's not good enough to say who's got some ideas.
Gotcha.
By the way, how did you get into this business?
Well, my dad was an entrepreneur, really. He started a large research firm under the auspices of Time Incorporated. It was called Sammy. He named it after our dog, actually, which was kind of funny. But it became the second largest research firm in the nation. We didn't get rich, but it was because he did it under the auspices of Time Inc. They funded it. But it was a wonderful environment to grow up in. And so I was curious about how entrepreneurs, anybody really, gets ideas that have value.
Wow. Now, I know you say that brainstorming doesn't work, but ideation does. What does that mean?
Thank you for that question. Brainstorming, your listeners may or may not know, was invented in the late 1930s by Alex Osborne, the O of BBDO ad agency. And, of course, the 2 rules are withhold judgment, or there are no bad ideas, and quantity will equal quality. That's brainstorming. It's ridiculous. Most of the ideas are bad, number one, but it's not bad to withhold judgment. But the point is that, and what separates brainstorm from ideation, you're triggering the brains in different ways with stimuli. When we're trying to invent a new Oreo cookie, if I go into that company and say, who's got some ideas, they're going to kick me out, as well they should, because they've been thinking about, Oreo cookies for 100 years. And so we'll bring in all kinds of different techniques and stimuli. It could be words, pictures, phrases, triggers, menus from the turn of the century, all different kinds of stimuli to hopefully trigger people to get new ideas. And that's what defines all the ideation techniques that are in the book.
And it seems like a side benefit of doing this in your company is that people feel like they have a say, like they're really part of the company.
Well, that's a profound insight, frankly, because first you got to get ideas, and then you got to make ideas happen. So, the book is really designed to help people get big ideas, but even more important is getting things to happen. A lot of our clients say, well, we have plenty of ideas, we just can't get them through the pipeline here. And to do that, people have to feel ownership. They have to feel they were a part of the creation of the ideas. And so these ideation sessions, whatever you want to call them, are designed to get people involved. And so when we do sessions, we have people that are, from finance, we have people from logistics, people you wouldn't expect to be in an ideation session, but we want them in there because they're going to be part of the process of bringing these ideas to market, and you want that ownership. Otherwise, it's very hard to make it happen.
Do you have any advice? It seems like all the big ideas in my life come at the strangest times. Like it's in the middle of the night, or like, do you tell people carry around something to write with?
Yeah, it's true. It's a great comment. We've actually, surveys would be overstating it, but we've anecdotally asked a lot of our clients, where do you get your ideas? And I don't think I've ever heard anyone say at work.
Right. Yeah.
Except when we do an ideation session.
Right.
But generally they say when I'm running, when I'm in the shower, 3 o'clock in the morning, when I'm driving. And the reason I think is because that's a period of somewhat of relaxation, and the brain, which is this incredible pattern-making device, machine, facility, whatever you want to call it, then has the opportunity, because it's not frantic and crazed, to make connections, unexpected connections between things. And that can happen in the dreams, that can happen when you're relaxed showering. And that's, to me, that's what's most exciting about this work, is when those connections are made. So you're absolutely correct. We recommend that our clients carry around, idea pads or notepads to write these things down, because, I personally have had to pull off the road and write stuff down so I didn't kill myself, when the ideas are coming when I'm driving.
Wow. Interesting. And I'm just reading here now some of the cool stuff that you've been part of through your idea sessions, like some of the stuff that's come out of it, like ABC reinventing Good Morning America's second hour in 2010, Brownie Chips Ahoy, Haagen-Dazs cookie dough, Dynamo. There's all kinds of other stuff, but the food ones, I think I'm hungry now.
Yeah, me too. Now I'm hungry.
But that's cool. What's the coolest, big idea you think that you've been part of?
Well, I hate to say it, but there have been a lot of them, but some of the naming ones are interesting and fun and easy to communicate. We had a fun one, because you're interested in food. I'll tell you a food story. We were asked by Ben & Jerry's to help them invent new novelties, they call them. This is anything but pints, so it could be popsicles or whatever. And by the way, one of the best ideas that they never did, I can share it, is called Ben Bens, which is essentially bonbons with stuff in them, right? I think that's a great idea.
Well, I thought it was going to be cutting Jerry off the label.
Yeah, get him out of prison, right? They were just arrested. But anyway, so they asked us to help them name a new strawberry and fudge ice cream, and we only had a half hour to do it as part of this all-day ideation session for the novelties. And I said, well, how long have you been working on it? They said, well, we've been trying to name it for 3 months. And I said, you want me to do it in a half hour? And essentially they said yes. And so the stimuli and trigger I used, because they're an anti-authoritarian company, I used triggers from slang dictionaries. And that's what led to the actual name. It's called Snafu, Strawberries Naturally All Fudged Up. And it did well for a few years. It's now in their graveyard, which is where they retire flavors that have had their run. But of course, they're some of these are zombies. Sometimes they bring these flavors back. So we're hoping Snafu will be reborn.
Now I want to
Wow.
try it, so I hope they
Yes.
do.
Yeah, it's quite good. There was a certain segment of the population that absolutely loved it, so it did well for a number of years.
That's cool. I was reading through some of the stuff about your books. By the way, Bryan has several books out on coming up with new ideas and innovation. He has one called 99% Inspiration, another one called Idea Stormers, How to Lead and Inspire Creative Breakthroughs, and then the most recent one, 21 Days to a Big Idea. I was reading something about how your teens can help you create the next big thing. And it seems like such a great idea to get younger people involved when it comes to any type of new idea.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I don't know about you guys, but I now have 20-somethings, but, we have them, and they're still living at home.
Yes.
so we occasionally have dinner together, and when we do, it's still like pulling teeth. They're still like teenagers. It's really hard to get them to say anything. But we went out to dinner one night to celebrate a birthday, and so I threw out this creative challenge, and they invented a new app, which I won't talk about because my daughter is still interested in it. But it was amazing, A, how much fun it was to be creative with the kids, and B, how much I learned about their personalities and their talents that I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know about. These kids were very creative and very interesting, really good at naming and just developing ideas. So it's a way. It's sort of a tricky and clever way to get to know your kids that you might not any other way. Another way to say it is being creative together can reveal things about people that you would never get any other way.
Wow, that's
Nice.
cool. Now, talk about what is a big idea club? Is that something you would do at a corporation?
Well, yeah, it could be done in a corporation. We're sort of experimenting with this concept now, but the basic premise is that, you have, especially women, I think. I hope I'm not being, politically incorrect here, but particularly women have book clubs. I know my wife was a member of one, and sometimes they're garden clubs, et cetera. And the thought here is, well, instead of a book club, why not create a big idea club? Have everybody get my this 21 days to a big idea and go through the exercises in this thing, and I can kind of guarantee that if you have this club and you're going through this exercise, you will get some big ideas. And then, of course, you have to decide if you're actually going to put the time and effort and resources to go doing those big ideas. But it is potentially a way to find that big idea for a new business, and I think it's particularly good if you can do it in a club situation because people will reinforce each other's ideas.
That is so cool. I have so many ideas going on in my head right now because the last time that I got my employees, I have about 400 people at my company, and
Wow.
so often we kind of just everything from events and appreciation programs. It's kind of top down. We don't really get the people involved in coming up with what they want. And I see this as a way not only to make empower people to feel like they're part of the company, but also it seems like these even a big idea club makes people buy in faster.
You're absolutely right. It's again that ownership, that thing about nobody washes a rental car, right? It's you got to have that ownership for these ideas, and the other ironic thing is, or not ironic, but I think interesting thing is that the employees will often have some of the best ideas,
right?
And they just weren't asked, and that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
When I did one of my previous books, they did a book club around it, and they invited me out. This was a company that sells insurance only to Catholics, of all things. It's a long and odd story, but anyway, they used it, and by doing that, they increased their sales by 52%. Because they were able to pull out all these different ideas from their employees using, in this case, it was a problem redefinition technique, but there are all kinds of techniques they use to help them build their sales.
One other that I saw you talk about is Eureka Today, a call-in idea generation session based on the week's headlines. What would something like that look like?
Well, part of, again, if we get back to this very important premise of all this work, is that you need stimuli and triggers to trigger the brain. Creativity is really about, this thing plus that thing equals a new thing. Mm-hmm. And so if you're struggling for a new idea to build your business, one of the things you can do is go to trend websites, Trend Hunter and Cassandra and Trend Central. There are all these different trend sites that have, they amass different trends for you for free. The other way to do it is use triggers from the newspaper, and sort of you could even cut those up into pieces and use those to trigger people and say, okay, we're trying to sell more real estate, or we're trying to, we've got a logistics company, or we've got a sales company, or we've got a food company. It doesn't matter. And we're trying to come up with a promotional idea. Let's somehow link this thing with that thing, whether it's a trend or Ben and Jerry's getting arrested or whatever it is. Link these two things together as a way to trigger some new ideas.
That's pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah, it's simple. It's simple. The other thing is similar to that linking thing is something we call benefit word mashing, where you put benefit words in front of what you're trying to do. So if you're one of the easiest ones is to put the word smart in front of anything. So a smart real estate, a smart basketball, a smart spoon, a smart pen. All these, doesn't matter. All the ones that I've just mentioned are actually new products, successful new products that have that smart component to them. But it doesn't have to be smart. It could be healthy, it could be virtual, it could be digital, futuristic, mobile, educational, speedy or quick. All those sort of benefit words will trigger all kinds of new ideas.
Wow.
It's already given me a lot of ideas.
Yes. Well, Bob, we have to execute on at least one of the 45 business ideas we've come up with in the last 2 years.
2 years. How about the ones we just came up with this week?
Yes.
Well, and the other thing I would say, almost finally, is that these processes can be used not only to come up with ideas, which is critical, of course, big ideas, but also to help you make those ideas happen, because that's the harder part, making the ideas happen.
Right.
And you're going to run into roadblocks and problems and challenges and all the rest. And those, if you think of those as just creative challenges to be addressed and solved, then these technologies will work for that. So not only for idea generation, but also for innovating, making these projects successful is a creative act as well, obviously.
I'm ordering 2 copies of your book immediately following the show.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Where can people learn more about you?
Well, the website is www.growth-engine.com. Our new site should be up next week, so they can see the old site this week, the new site next week. And all the books, as you mentioned, especially 21 Days to a Big Idea, Idea Stormers, which is available from both an audio and printed version. They're all available on Amazon, of course, they're easy to. That's probably easy to get that way. Although certainly you could order them from the bookstores as well if they don't have them in stock.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you for joining us. I have pages of notes. So
well, thank you guys. You're fun, and I like talking to this sort of male-female thing. It makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it does. It does. And we'd definitely love to have you back on again after we both read the book. So count on hearing from us in the near term.
Guys.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Get Real. Tune in again next weekend for more.